Department of Health was doing interior tide pool by tide pool look to see how bad the tide pools are. And I think one of our main concerns is not just getting rid of the physical trash that's stuck in the hau trees and the kaumani trees and other things, but how do we deal with what's in the tide pools? Because that's the stuff that's starting to rot and starting to contaminate. And I did talk to the Department of Health officials fairly long. A tenant came out, Aaron, who was talking about how bad his tide pool was. So that's a big question for us, Bobby, is how and when and with what resources can we go and start clearing out the tide pools, and where do we put that trash, and how do we touch that trash, and how do we get it out of here, basically. So that's one of the major concerns. And I'll take a few questions right now if anybody else has some major concerns about what do we do with these situations, and if we are going to get help removing it in terms of equipment. I know there's people here, and I want to thank you ahead of time, that have volunteered with equipment, tractors, bobcats, other things, backhoes that can help move this stuff. But I think at this point in time we have to find out what we have to separate, what goes in what container, and how many containers we need to separate everything. We are starting to put stuff in piles. We decided that yesterday at yesterday's meeting, but at that point in time we weren't separating anything. We were just gathering piles. Kat?
No, I talked to Bobby Jean last night, so when they did the piles today, they totally separated.
Oh, great. Well, that's terrific. So I guess we just need to make sure we identify what's what, and then make sure it goes in the proper.
And then some volunteers made signs on the 2 bins down Kapoho, so that there's no green waste in it. You know, it can have some household trash. Road wash, like different debris, and like what really.
Well, there is a neighbor that has a farm lot that has allowed green waste in the past to go into his lot. Now the problem was with him, it was very abused, and he closed it all off. So I don't know if he's willing to be helpful again, or he figures there's liability involved. But all we can do is ask somebody like that. If we can't find him, is there another green waste solution?
Well, you know, once we figure out whether you need more bins, then I could probably try and come and dedicate one. But this was like, you know, calling guys up on the weekend, not necessarily easy to track them down, to try and get something down today. Since it's basically a rubbish issue, that's why I'm here.
Okay, well, yeah. We appreciate you being here.
When I talked to Greg Goodale, how do you pronounce the name?
Goodale.
Yeah. He was saying that he would like to see, wants to see the rubbish out first. And he says, once the rubbish is cleaned out, he says, we probably can keep the bins down here and start doing green waste, but he wants to separate it totally. And he said, I'd like to see it like a week or 2 apart to make it even easier.
Yeah. See, the thing is, like, we try to keep green waste out of the landfill as much as we can. The other thing that we try to keep out of the landfill is metals and anything hazardous, electronic waste, so TVs, computers,
washing machines.
Yeah, that's white goods. If there's a refrigerator, that's got Freon. So I don't want it mixed in with the rubbish because I have to.
That should be a whole separate issue.
Yeah, white goods should be separate. Metal could be separate.
That's like freezers and stuff like that, right?
Freezers.
Yeah, that's the white goods. The refrigerator, freezer.
Washer,
and the reason is I got to handle it differently, especially anything that's got Freon in it, because I have to be very careful not to rupture the gas in it. We have a special contract, so somebody comes and actually physically removes the Freon before we send it for scrap metal. And we also try to keep electronics and household hazardous waste. So if you've got stuff like insecticide, pesticide,
turpentine,
you know, that turpentine, paints,
that
I would like to not go into the rubbish because I'm trying to keep it out of the landfill. particularly because Hilo is an unlined
Okay.
Yeah,
landfill.
but we've been separating that stuff that goes
That's
behind it,
wonderful,
so
that's
what
exactly
we're
what
doing.
you need to do. I'm basically here to,
And there will be another alternative place to put that.
yeah, I'm basically here to hear if you have additional concerns. Daryl couldn't make it because they're just swamped at civil defense, but
We
I
understand.
had promised I would come back out for
Well, I just
today's
think
meeting.
there's some of the cans and stuff in these people's tide pools.
Well,
If you
On
look at
that
the piles that we made
on that
today,
note, we do have two people here from the Department of Health, and maybe you
Great.
guys could come forward and give us an update. I met these gentlemen earlier today. It's nice of them to come back so late in the day. But we talked specifically about the tide pools. So if you guys can just give an update.